Hey, it is Elizabeth Off Grid. I just recorded a video about what I love about living in a car, and now this is about what I dislike about living in a car. What are the 7 worst things, at least from my perspective, about living in a vehicle? And I think a lot of these would apply if you're living in a car, an SUV, a minivan, any kind of small vehicle, and then some of them apply even if you're living in a big fifth wheel RV. So the first thing, needing to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Like, this is something that has historically very stressed me out. Not really much anymore because I've figured it out, but in the beginning especially, like if I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, what do I do? Oh my gosh. Now, there are a lot of people who live in a vehicle who go to the bathroom inside their vehicle. I have never done that. I do not want to do that. I do have like a little mini setup for that, but I do not want to use that. So what do I do in the middle of the night? Well, it obviously depends on where I'm at. I could be at a rest stop or a campground and I can just go to that bathroom that's open. But generally speaking, I go to Planet Fitness. Like, if that happens, I go to Planet Fitness, which is open 24/7, and I have the black card and go there as many times as I want to whatever Planet Fitness that I'm nearby. I had one time where they weren't open because they're not open a few days a year for holidays and things like that in the middle of the night. And one time it was an emergency and I literally went off the side of a road. That's not optimal. So the big thing there is I actually am very careful about what water I drink at the very end of the day. I go to the bathroom around 8 to 8:30 p.m. at night, and then I'm good for the rest of the night almost all the time, but it does stress me out. Number 2 is dealing with the heat. Dealing with the cold actually hasn't been a problem at all for me. It's dealing with the heat. How do you keep cool in a car is a legit question. And there are definitely things you can do, but there's only so much you can do, especially if it's super hot. If it's like 105 degrees, there isn't a way to keep cool with that. There's a way to survive. Okay. Now, obviously you can go inside somewhere. You can go in a restaurant, you can go in a coffee shop, you can go to a library. There's things you can do. You can go into Planet Fitness and take a cool shower, there's stuff you can do to keep cool, and obviously having a fan and, all the, typical things, but keeping cool when you live in a car, because if you live in an RV and you go to RV parks, you can plug in your RV and have a air conditioner, right? But if you're in a car, I put an air conditioner in a car like that, I have a car, sometimes I will literally like run the car, run the air conditioning, but it is hard to keep cool. To keep cool when it is hot. It is a legit concern. Number 3 is finding a place to sleep in a new place. So I've gotten a lot better at this over the months. When I'm traveling, I do research ahead of time on where I'm going to sleep, and I have a bunch of things. And a lot of times when I'm traveling, I'm staying at rest stops, dispersed camping, Walmart supercenters, that kind of stuff. But that doesn't work everywhere. Okay. If you're in a city in California, you can't sleep at a Walmart supercenter. They don't allow that. Okay. There's a whole lot of places in the United States, especially where there's a large homeless population or there's a large van life population, where they've made rules that you can't sleep in your car either at all, which is probably unconstitutional, but that's a whole nother video, or you can't do it in the parking lots. Part of the reason is because it's kind of a not in my backyard thing. Part of it is because there are some people who live in their RVs and vans or whatever who have ruined it for everyone, because they set up a campsite, because they leave garbage, because they poop on the ground. And then, so there are times where I get very stressed out, and not just finding a place to sleep, but actually getting to the place to sleep. I had one time where I was in southern Utah in a town, and I totally had picked out a place to sleep, and the place was good. Okay. However, I had to find it, and the dark, which I normally don't do, but there was a reason, and that's beyond the scope of this. So I was trying to find this tiny road off this highway in the dark, and the road was a 55-mile-an-hour road, and I'm going like 35 trying to find it. People were pissed, and I had to pull over and let everyone pass me so that I could go slow to find this left turn that I had to make. It was very stressful, and it made me so stressed that I took me forever to go to sleep. I slept terrible, and I got a migraine the next day. So it is definitely a stressful thing. I try to make sure that I actually go to the place that I'm going to sleep in the light, even if I end up leaving and then coming back later. So that way I know where it is. So I don't have to try to find somewhere in the dark, because that is horribly stressful. There have been times I've gone to a place and I'm like, nope, I can't sleep here. This is creepy, or now it has a sign or whatever. So that is a stress. Once you've been in a place multiple times though, you find the places. It's not a big deal. It's that first night in that new place. That's the thing that's very stressful. Number 4 is cooking when it is hot, when it's raining, when I don't feel well, all that kind of stuff. Because cooking generally in good conditions is great. You know, going to a park, being at a campground, whatever, being at a picnic area, and I set up my cooking stuff, and it can be like this wonderful, joyful experience. But when I'm in a city and there's like, sometimes the parks don't have good picnic areas because their picnic areas are really far away from where the parking is. Maybe the picnic areas are reservation only and they're completely full. Maybe the parking area is full sun, so you're not going to park there and let your car heat up because it's hot outside, etc. Like sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes I'm cooking, I'm getting attacked by wasps. Like there's issues with that, which can mean that sometimes I end up just going out to eat or eating protein bars over and over and over again. Okay. So cooking is obviously a much bigger deal, and especially if you're in a car. So if you're in something that actually has like a little kitchen, you know, so you're in a camper of some kind or a van that has a kitchen area, it is a lot easier. And that is something that I definitely want in my next rig, is a little kind of permanent kitchen thing, or a method of doing that. Now I do have a way to cook with electricity that I have done in my car. And as we're moving towards the winter, I do plan to get that back out and keep it in my car, because then I can cook in my car in the rain. But still, I still have to go to the trunk and get that stuff. And if it's pouring down rain, is that very realistic? Right? So yeah, cooking can be an issue. Number 5 is if you're sick or in pain. So living in a car with a migraine sucks. Living in a car when you have stomach problems or what I call bathroom problems, that sucks. I worry about, well, what's going to happen if I get a, urinary tract infection, or, I mean, like there's just things where I'm just like, oh man, what if I get the flu? Now really what I would do is I would like book a motel room so I have my own bathroom for the amount of time that I think I'm going to need to get through it. But I do worry about that and I think about, what am I going to do in this situation if I have to deal with that? With migraines, I get them enough that I've kind of figured out all the things I do. And fundamentally, I just try to survive through the time that I have a migraine. I do have new migraine medicine, by the way, if you're wondering. So hopefully this will get better over time. But managing pain, managing injury, managing sickness when you live in a car definitely gets more complicated, because you have to be able to drive the car around. There's certain pain meds you couldn't take, because what would I do? I'd have to go to a hotel to take the pain meds because you can't drive with them. You know what I mean? So it definitely is more complicated. Number 6 is worrying about being bothered by police, by creepy people, by security, by nosy people, busybodies, like being worried about that. And I say being worried about it more than the actual thing, because in a lot of ways, it's the anxiety that's the biggest problem that makes it so I can't sleep or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that anxiety or worry is necessarily bad, because you do want to have a lot of situational awareness. So if there's like creepiness going on, you can get out. The only time I've had a knock from the cops, which I have had a knock, and it was in the first week of living in my car, it was actually not about me. They weren't going to tell me to move. It was because the car behind me had the cops called on them because they thought that they were like casing a storage unit place, and they needed to see if I was part of like the group of people who were being sketchy. And I wasn't, obviously. They didn't tell me to move, but I sure as heck did. I wasn't going to be around the sketchy people who were casing a joint. So I left, but it is like this stress, right? Like I don't want to get knocked on a door. Also, sometimes I'll be in my car sleeping and it's not even the cops or security or anything. It's just sketchy people being loud. And I listen and I'm like, okay, am I going to need to leave? I've only left once, and that was when the cop knocked on my window. I haven't needed to leave once I've actually gone to sleep, but I always have to be prepared to do so, because if something is going on and my situational awareness alarm goes off, I have to be able to fly the coop ASAP. And it's important to be open to that and not to overly commit to where you are. But it is a stress worrying about people bothering you, being creepy, whatever. I mean, yesterday there was someone who was taping me. Like they were videoing me from like 2 cars over, kind of like where that car is right now. And I was like, it wasn't in this parking lot. It was a different part of town. The 7th thing that really sucks about living in a car is dealing with mail residency address issues. So there's so many places where you have to fill out a form that says, what is your residence? What is your permanent address? I don't know what that is? You know, like when you live in a vehicle, the truth is you don't actually have one, but you need one for all these forms. Now you can get so many different kinds of addresses just to get your mail. You can get a PO box, UPS store box, a virtual mailbox. There's a lot of things that exist now, which is great. So that can solve the kind of mail problem. Now that may or may not solve the package problem, because obviously you can get packages from Amazon delivered to Amazon lockers all over the place. But what if you are buying something from somebody else, from another place? Where does that get delivered? Now, if it's from a store that there are stores of, you can just get it delivered there. So if you buy something from Walmart online, it can get delivered to a Walmart, right? So like that can work out okay. The issue is from somewhere that doesn't have a storefront and it's not Amazon. Where does it go? Because yeah, you may have a PO box in a city, but you're not in that city because you're traveling around. You know, it's like, this is really complex. And then, are you a resident? So let's say you want to sign up for something in the state where you have been living and you spend most of your time. Well, you're a resident there. You're there, right? But you have to prove that you're a resident. And you have to, like, for example, if you're going to get your real ID or something, then you have to bring up all these documents. Well, you don't have a rental agreement. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have a deed that you're of title for a house. Like, there are documents you just don't have. And that makes life complicated. It's the short version of that. Not actually short, obviously. Now, for me, I have a family member who lives in this general area, and that is my permanent address. That's where I get mail. That's where I get a lot of my packages. That's the address for my voting, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I use my permanent address. Sometimes I get packages to another person's house. Sometimes I have it go to Amazon locker, but Amazon lockers are not 100% reliable. I had one thing that the delivery person could not figure out how to deliver it to that Amazon locker because it has Staples inside of Staples, and then Staples is only open from, I don't know, 8 to 8 or I don't know, something like that. And the delivery driver kept trying to deliver it after 8 p.m. So I ended up having to cancel the order. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I think it was a non-Amazon one. They had given it to, I don't even know what it was. Whatever. I had to cancel it. So there are simple problems that are actually much more complicated because you don't have a normal, regular mailing and residency address situation. If you try to use your virtual mailbox for your permanent address thing, that will work in some situations, but not all of them, because there are some government agencies who will literally look it up. They can pull up the post office database of addresses and see that it is a PMB address. So that is not going to work for every situation. It'll work for a lot of things, you know, but it will not work for every situation. So as I said, this is Elizabeth Off Grid. I love overall living in a vehicle, but it is not for everyone. Now, there's some things I actually didn't mention that people bring up, like sleeping in a car. I actually don't dislike sleeping in a car. I actually like sleeping in a car a lot. I sleep just as well in a car as I did in an apartment. I have a flat bed that I've built in here. Like, so there's a lot of things that other people may talk about as being sucking, but yeah, some of those things are just not a problem for me. So if you have any other things that drive you up a wall about living in a vehicle, put them in the comments below. Any questions you have or comments or just want to say hi, put them below. Thumbs up if you found this interesting or helpful in any way, and subscribe wherever the link is if you want to follow along on the journey. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.